I decided to make this video to assemble some important information together that I found very interesting, especially in light of the recent conflict between Israel and Iran. I will readily admit that I don't feel that I know a lot about Iran, but this is changing. In this video, we will go together through some information that I found startling. Things that I definitely was not taught in school about Iran. Iran in World War II. Since I feel that most of the modern world order came out of World War II, and for other reasons that I will mention later, I began my search trying to find out what Iran's involvement was in World War II. In 1941, the communists founded the Tudeh Party in Iran, a Marxist-Leninist communist political party. The party remained strong through the 1970s and was one of the strongest underground movements that paved the way for the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The British in 1941 began to claim that Iran was sympathetic to Germany and was harboring Nazis. Britain and the Soviet Union were also claiming that they could not allow Persian oil to fall into the hands of the Germans, and they escalated this accusation. In August of 1941, the Brits and Soviets invaded Iran from the north, east, and the west. This is called the Anglo-Soviet invasion of Iran. They announced that they would stay only 6 months, but this turned into years of occupation by the Soviets specifically. After this invasion of Iran, the Soviet Union and Britain sat down with Iran and signed terms stating that they would respect the sovereignty of Iran and leave within 6 months. This was called the 1942 Tripartite Treaty of Alliance between Iran, Britain, and the Soviet Union. Their promise to leave Iran, of course, did not happen, and the occupation in Iran continued for years. In November of 1943, the Allies, Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union, held a conference in the Soviet embassy in Tehran, Iran, simply called the Tehran Conference. This conference was attended by Franklin Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, and Joseph Stalin. This is where the Allies committed to opening a Western front in the war, resulting in the 1944 Operation Overlord and the Normandy D-Day invasion of France by the American armies. During the Tehran Conference, Soviet intelligence came forward, saying that they had a source who discovered a German plot to assassinate all 3 Allied leaders in the conference. They called this plot Operation Long Jump. Some members in the American and British delegations felt that the alleged German plot was, quote, complete baloney, and I would agree. It seems this was a Soviet lie, intended to push the Americans and British into opening the Western Front against the Germans. The Soviets under Stalin created secessionist states inside Iran, of Azerbaijan and the Kurdish separatists in 1946. The Soviets obviously had aspirations of subverting Iran's government or annexing large parts of its country. Their continued presence in Iran caused such a problem that the Soviet-trained Kurdish and Azerbaijani forces battled against the Iranian forces in Soviet-led revolts. Diplomacy between the Iranian premier and the United States and the Soviets finally caused the Soviets to withdraw and dissolve their Azerbaijani and Kurdish puppet states. In 1953, the CIA, then known as the OSS, Office of Strategic Services, led a coup d'etat inside Iran to overthrow Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh and strengthen the rule of the Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. This was called Operation Ajax by the CIA, and its main goal was to protect British and American oil interests in Iran. In 1957, the CIA continued to work inside Iran and helped to found the secret police of Iran. This group was named Savak and was notorious for its extensive surveillance, repression, and torture of political dissidents. It had the power to censor the media, screen applicants for government jobs, and use all means necessary, including torture, to hunt down dissidents. The 1953 coup led by the CIA in Iran is known to have been a prime mover of the country towards the Iranian Revolution of 1979, which deposed the Shah and installed the Islamic Republic with the Khomeini as the supreme leader of Iran. With just these events, you should be able to see how the CIA and the Soviets undermined the Iranian government and manipulated the politics of the country to create the Iran that you have today. Iran houses and supports a large number of terrorist organizations that affect countries in many parts of the world. You might say that it has tentacles that spread everywhere. Was this created by the communist Soviets? By the CIA? By some combination of the two? Was this a simple continuation of the Soviet communist expansionism? What purpose would an Islamic terrorist state serve? Iran is now a haven for Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, Al-Qaeda, and other terrorist groups. What goals and countries could be served by having a controlled opposition army of terrorists that can cause geopolitical shifts in the region of the Middle East? Something hidden. For a long time, I have been looking for something hidden. I have seen all the information, documentaries, and books about the absolute fact that Hitler was not a maniacal killer, but a born patriot of Germany, trying to save his country from an encroaching banking system, oligarchs, and communists. And I have seen that the Allies were deceitful and bloodthirsty in their attempts to vilify and destroy Germany. And I do believe that those things are true. But the narrative seems to me to be a little simplistic, a little too straightforward. I have always still felt like there was something that started in World War II, something evil, something insidious and hidden. We all know of the evils of the British and Americans during the war. We know of the displacement and genocide of the Palestinians when the Jews created the nation of Israel. We know of the atrocities of the communists and the Bolsheviks throughout Russia and Europe. This may be the most heinous of all. But something tells me there is a little more. More behind the Cold War. More behind the post-World War II political order that we are not privy to. Something was born. Movie magic. But I also have training in movie making specifically. So I often watch movies with an eye for messages or symbolism buried deep within the plots of movies. Some movies have them, some movies don't. But as I was watching this one movie, and you may recognize it, Captain America: The First Avenger, I didn't feel it was particularly a good movie, though it has its moments. But as I watched, I found one narrative within the movie very interesting. The setup of the movie being World War II, the audience thinks in their heads that the bad guys are all Nazis.
So, you want to go overseas? Kill some Nazis.
Excuse me?
But you didn't answer my question. Do you want to kill Nazis? So many people forget that the first country the Nazis invaded was their own.
Hydra is the Nazi Deep Science Division.
However, earlier in the movie, the main villain makes a remark noting his differences with the Führer.
And the Führer digs for trinkets in the desert.
Also, you'll notice in the movie that the actual Nazis disavow the villain and his followers, who are called Hydra. They are kicked aside by the Germans, and then end up turning on them.
Your Hydra division has failed to deliver so much as a rifle in over a year. And we had learned through local intelligence you had mounted a full-scale incursion into Norway.
The Führer feels, how does he put it, the Red Skull has been indulged long enough.
Though the viewer thinks that this war is against the Nazis, there are almost no signs of the swastika in the movie at all. However, one symbol does continue to appear time and again. The symbol of the octopus.
But what others see as superstition, you and I know to be a science. Call it what it is, exile. I no longer reflect it.
So you can see where this narrative in the movie drives. I picked up on this story of a faction of evil that rises within or alongside the Nazi Party, or simply within World War II's milieu, that has a plan of world domination and subjugation. I have never been able to solve this puzzle or really put this information together to fit this narrative that is shown to us in the movie. Is Iran the puzzle piece that I have been looking for? Is it connected to the narrative that I see playing out in this movie? Symbols come together. A few more tidbits that I found may interest you in regards to Iran. The Iranian Air Headquarters, from an aerial view, has a distinguishing symbol displayed. The Iranian leadership's response when this was discovered by media was that Israeli engineers constructed the building before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, and that essentially they didn't know it was there. The symbol was quickly covered up by the Iranians so that it could no longer be seen from satellite view. Some people have also discovered interesting symbols on the grounds of the Islamic Azad University in Bandar Abbas, Iran. The Secret Service of Iran, SAVAK, which as we have mentioned before was started by the CIA, uses this as its preferred symbol. I saw this symbol recently displayed on the news during the Israel-Iran conflict. One other thing, the symbol from the movie Captain America, the symbol of Hydra, the octopus. If you just do a little searching on Iran and octopus, you will find something called the octopus doctrine. The so-called octopus doctrine explains how Israel fights multiple facets of the Iranian threat, such as Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hezbollah. In the complex geopolitical fabric of the Middle East, Iran emerges as a cunning and powerful octopus, extending its tentacles to different fronts, threatening and challenging regional stability. This colossal cephalopod seeks to surround its enemy, Israel, using a variety of tactics and allies to apply pressure at key points. The name Octopus Doctrine was codified by Israeli politicians. Also, did you wonder about the leader of Hydra with his red face in the movie? What does the color red signify or represent in the context of World War II? Well, of course, the Soviet Army is called the Red Army. Red represents the Soviets. and Stalin and the communists and the Bolsheviks. And who invaded Iran and would not leave after the war? The Soviets. Answers are complicated. What does all this mean? How do we put it all together? The history of Iran in the modern age seems to be a litany of revolution, political infighting, and major, if not subversive, involvement by foreign countries. One has to wonder if Iran has ever been in control of its own destiny since World War II. My guess is that it hasn't. Can I say for sure that the something that was born out of World War II was this terrorist network in Iran? Could I say that this is a hidden hand working through Iran to use terror around the world to move nations, start wars, and provide adversaries for Israel that justify its bullying of its neighbors in the Middle East? It's hard to say anything for sure. We are on the outside of this game. But since we now have done some homework, it seems that the picture becomes clearer. Iran has not been the arbiter of its own fate since the Brits and Soviets invaded in 1941. The Allies seemed to use the war as a predicate for their invasion, occupation, and corruption of the government in Iran. The CIA's continued involvement in Iran and, frankly, their coordination with communist agendas has led to the rule of the Ayatollahs, the Khomeinis, as supreme leaders of Iran. Iran may simply at this point be a puppet state of the globalist leaders, a launching ground for terror attacks and nuclear threat that funds wars and justifies Israel's existence. Is Iran the octopus that facilitates world domination? I wholeheartedly admit that I don't fully know the answer. But now you have the information that I have found, and my eyes are wide open.